Lindsay here, the Frugal Crafter. Today we're going to take a look at the January Smart Art box, and we have got some cool stuff in here. Ooh, it's a big dog head. This month's offerings are colored pencils, so it starts off by giving you some tips and a project to do in colored pencils. We're going to do something different though, so a couple ideas on how to use your Smart Art kit or the colored pencils you already have. This comes with a set of 12 Coloursoft pencils by Derwent. I'm familiar with these pencils and I do like them because they have a thick soft lead but they resist breaking. So if you like wax-based pencils like Prismacolors but you're frustrated with the amount of times the lead breaks, give Coloursoft a try. I've been recommending these since Prismacolors quality has kind of gone down. So I'm really happy to have these. These are kind of expensive pencils, so that's probably why there's only a set of 12 in this month's kit. And it's better to have fewer nice quality pencils than it is to have a big set of poor quality pencils. There's also a nice pencil sharpener here, and it's got two slots, but it's not for two different size pencils. It's for the type of tip that you want. So if you want a more blunt tip, use the first one, and if you want a more long pointy tip, you use the second one. So it just depends on the type of tip you want your pencil to have, whether you're doing broad strokes or you want fine details. There's also a blender pencil, which is nice for if you want to blend a couple colors together but you don't want to change the tone of the colors, because sometimes you'll blend with white but it will lighten things, or you'll blend with yellow to warm them up, but sometimes you don't want to change a color, so having a clear blender is really useful. And last but not least, we have an artist's paper book. Let's have a look here. It's got a tie closure, which will be handy for taking it out and about, and you've got some nice white pages here, and with a little bit of tooth to it, which will be good for colored pencil. And that's what we're going to do our project on today. Okay, let's get started with our drawing. Now, artists are inspired by everything, and when I saw that Clementine sitting on my table after the kids left for school, I thought that would make a really great still life, and so I saved it for a couple of days, and the orange peel kind of like shrunk up a little bit, and I just thought it was so interesting, and I thought that would make a really fun piece of artwork in colored pencils. So I am using my bright orange pencil, number CO80, and I'm sketching in kind of like a little 3D semicircle, and then another one right next to it. Then I decided I'd switch over to my deep cadmium, which is that yellow pencil. The number on that is CO40, and I thought I ought to continue sketching with that. That way, if it's a little too dark, I thought the orange might be a little too dark. And again, I'm doing basic shapes. I'm doing circles, semicircles. I'm just basically drawing what I see on the plate. And then I'm blocking in some color with that same yellow color. Just to let you know, this painting took me about 30 minutes to complete, and I'm speeding it up a little bit just to make it go a little bit quicker for you watching. But don't fret if it takes you longer than this to complete your picture. Take your time, have fun. It's art. It should be a really fun process. Now I'm going back to that bright orange color, and I am putting in some of the brighter shades from my Clementines. And notice how I'm doing the strokes there on my pencil. I'm kind of angling my strokes into the center just the way the segments or those little kind of like, what do you call them, like little bursts of juice are inside of a Clementine. You know, they're kind of like little packets of juiciness. And packets of juiciness, I like that. And they all kind of like point towards the center of the slice. So that's what I was trying to do there. Now we're using only 6 colors for this entire demonstration, so every stroke matters. So what I like to think of it as an economy of pencil strokes, okay? And less is more usually, and you don't want to clog the tooth of the paper, meaning you don't want to put so much down at the beginning that you can't layer any more on top of it. Now there I'm just kind of sketching in that dried up orange peel. This may seem so gross to somebody. My husband was completely grossed out because I've had this dish with a Clementine sitting on it on my art desk in my office for like 3 days. So he was like totally grossed out about that. But I just thought it looked more interesting and more interesting as the days went on. And there I'm just putting some of the bright orange on the outer part of the orange peel, not the pith side, but the peel side. And I'm putting that on really light so we can still see the texture of the paper. This paper is wonderful. It's got a light tooth to it, meaning that it's going to hold quite a bit of pencil, but it's not going to be so rough that it takes a long time to fill it in. So it was really a good choice to have this this book in the kit, and I love the size of it. I could take it with me and just kind of sketch on the go. And I also like the size of this kit of pencils. Usually I find 12 pencils limiting, but I found this is really easy to work with. So for the cast shadows, this is where I wish I had like maybe some softer colors, but for the cast shadows, I'm putting them in first with dark terracotta, which is kind of like a reddish brown, and then I'm very lightly going over that with my indigo blue. And you just want to make sure you go really, really light. You don't really want to see, you don't want to indent the paper when you're doing the shadow. You want it super, super light, and just kind of keep layering more color over it, back and forth between the orange and the blue until you get it just right. And now I'm using my clear blender that came with the kit to kind of smooth some of those colors together so they look a little bit more gray. And you know, you learn these tricks as you work with a limited palette. I was just advising one of my students in a real life class the other day that if you work with a limited palette, you're actually going to be a better painter instead of just going out and buying the biggest, most expensive set you can. Although I do like a big expensive set of pencils, don't get me wrong. Now I thought I'd soften some of the shadows because they were a little dark. I'm using the blue. It is number C330. And I just thought that would kind of soften it up a little bit, make it a little bit more opaque and just a little less dark. And I like to get these dark values in pretty early on, the same way I do with other painting tutorials, because I feel like it helps set the scale of the colors that I'm going to use. I have the white paper. That's the whitest white that I'm going to get. That's my brightest color. And then if I get that dark shadow in, that's my darkest color. So it just makes it a little easier. Now you probably noticed that the video is shaking a little bit here. That's because I am pressing really, really hard on the pencils to color in that pith area of the skin. So you can kind of see my knuckles look white there. When you're burnishing, and that's what this technique is called, when you're kind of coloring over really hard with another color, it does wiggle your table. So just kind of bear with me through this. I hope it's not too jittery for you, but your table's gonna jiggle on you when you're doing this section. But I will say these are nice quality pencils, and you don't have to push as hard as you would with like a student pencil. But when people are always asking me like, how come my colored pencil work isn't as vivid as yours, Lindsay? I'm using the same supplies, and it's generally they're not burnishing over. So now I'm using some of that white and I'm burnishing over the slices of Clementine. I'm going right over the orange and the yellow, and my strokes are going in that same sunburst type of pattern. And see, I can go back in with my terracotta and add some shadows. You can really keep layering and layering. Now, if you've never used the Coloursoft pencils before, they're a little drier than Prismacolors, but because of that, you can layer on. They are a waxed-based pencil. They almost feel like they have a little bit of grit to them. That's the only way I can describe it, where Prismacolors feel very slick. These feel like they have a little bit of tooth or grit to them. They grab the paper a little bit more, and they allow a little more layering. But then again, I'll be honest, I only have 36 of these colors in my own stash, but I'm happy with them for as far as I've used them. So now I'm layering some yellow and some orange on the skin portion, and since the skin from the Clementine isn't fresh, it's not thick, it's dried up, you kind of see that yellow and orange kind of curling around the edges. So I'm kind of outlining and giving it that look. If you had a fresher peeled orange, you'd see more of the white or lighter colors. I'm also adding some of that terracotta into the pith area just to give it a little bit of shadow and texture, kind of show that it's curved. And I'm doing this technique is called scumbling. It's when you're just kind of grazing the surface very gently and in a random pattern so that you just kind of get a little bit of a texture and a little bit of a color there, but you're not really like gouging in lines or anything. You're just kind of lightly going over it and adding color. And I'm also going over in little circular motions over the skin with more of the orange terracotta and just kind of building up my color. And that's what you got to do when you have a limited palette, is you have to build up your color. And again, 6 colors, that's all we're using. So it's going to make you a better artist when you break it down and use fewer colors. Then even if I am doing a painting and I'm using a full set of 72 colors or a full set of 120 colors, I rarely have more than 10 pencils going. I like to keep dipping back into those same colors so that I know my entire painting is going to have harmony in it. I think it's a really good practice to work from life whenever you can. So I'm working from a setup right in front of me on my desk. It was a dish with these clementines and skin on it. And the nice thing about that is that you can really look and you can see where your shadows are coming in, where your shadows are darkest, where they're fading away, and you can also look in your surroundings and say, okay, why am I getting a shadow on both sides of that orange? Well, it's because I have 2 light sources here, and you can either be true to that, or you could say, well, I'm going to pick one light source and go with that. You know, it's completely up to you, but if you know the rules, you're going to know how to break them. You're also going to have some experience so that when you're coloring or drawing something where you don't have something to look at, you're going from your imagination, or maybe you're coloring a rubber stamped image, you're going to have a good idea of where that light's going to come from, where the shadows are going to be, and it just helps you become a better artist. So draw from life whenever possible, even if it's just drawing pictures of your kids or drawing the fruit sitting on your kitchen table. Now I'm thickly applying some yellow and some orange to my my orange slices, and I'm keeping the strokes on those two slices on the edge. I'm making sure those strokes keep going in that kind of sunburst pattern, so they're coming out from the center of the orange, so they really look like look like the orange. Because once you start putting down heavy strokes with a colored pencil, you're not going to be able to change the direction of those strokes. They're going to kind of be ingrained in the paper, and that's always what they're going to look like. Now with the white here, I am kind of sketching in the pith and the veins that are in like that thin membrane of skin on the sections of Clementine. And now here with the orange, I'm going around those. So I'm coloring what's not those white skins, and then you get that really realistic veil of color, and it really looks like you've got those kind of veiny membranes on top there. And I'm going in with that terracotta again and darkening my shadows. See, the reason I like terracotta, and especially the combination of terracotta and indigo, and you can mix these up in whatever brand pencils you have, I like it because they're very lively dark colors. Indigo is a very rich color, and terracotta is a very rich color. They're not muddy at all, and you can get some really rich mixes. So even though terracotta is kind of a brown, and I put it over that orange, it doesn't make the orange look rotted or dead. It still makes it look very bright and lively, and that's the look I'm going for. I really want this to be as vivid in my sketch as it is in real life. Now again, here on the side of the orange, I want to show that depth, so I am putting in those little sections of the fruit juice where you can kind of see it, and then dividing it up with the membrane sections. And now I'm going a little more aggressively in with the terracotta on the skin. I really want to show that it's curved. I also want to show some distinction between the peel and the fruit there. I want to make sure it's pushed behind there and it really stands out. And I kind of messed up, so I decided I needed to redraw that edge and just make it a little higher so I could correct that error that I made. But that's all right. We make mistakes when we create, and we learn how to fix them, and that's what artists do. We're kind of like magicians. We make mistakes all the time. We just figure out how to fix them. So the next time we do it, we can fix it again if we can't avoid it. And you know, it's just basically a process of building your colors up as you go. Now, as I said before, this took me 30 minutes to paint, and I sped the video up a bit so that it would take a little less time here while I was voicing it over. Take your time. If it takes you an hour to do this, if it takes you 2 hours, that's fine. You can use the slow motion button on the bottom of the player on YouTube and slow it down. You can pause it, or you can, even better, the best thing to do is to peel an orange and set it on a plate right in front of you and draw from life. Now here I'm doing a little bit more scumbling on the pith, and also bringing that terracotta back over to the two segments of Clementine that are on the right hand side. You're basically doing that same technique to each portion of the Clementine until you've built up that beautiful glow of color, and it really does glow. And I think once you learn how to layer your colored pencils, because they're a translucent medium, you can really get some beautiful luminescent colors. Now the way to use this pencil sharpener is you first have to sharpen it in the first hole, the number 1 hole, and you get that long blunt lead. You can use it like that, but if you want it sharp, then you sharpen it in the second hole. So it's not really one or the other. You have to start by sharpening it in the first hole, and then you go to the second hole. I really like the sharpener too. I've never used this brand before, and I like that I can adjust my lead, because I usually prefer to work with a fairly blunt pencil until I'm down to my final details, and then I get in with something a little more detailed. Now with that bright blue color, I am kind of scumbling it over that peel again, and then I'm going back into some more terracotta. I like the bright blue because it almost looks like a shadow color, and it's also the opposite of the orange, so it gives me a really lively shadow. And then when I can knock it back with the terracotta and make it look a little more gray, but there's so much color in this painting that it looks vivid and alive. I'm also going into some of my white highlights and adding the blue, because it's just going to make the white look a little whiter, which sounds a little weird, but just think about it, ladies. If you wear a blue-based lipstick, your teeth look whiter, right? It's the same same idea here. That's going to make your whites look a little bit whiter, and you're also just giving it that pop of color because you're putting a blue right next to that orange, and it's really just making it vivid. And then to finish off, I'm just throwing in a little more orange to make those segments of Clementine just really glow. I think this turned out really well, and I hope you give it a try. If you'd like to get a kit of art supplies in your mailbox every month, check out smartartbox.com. I really enjoy getting their kits. They have been a sponsor for a few months here on the Frugal Crafter channel, and I'm so pleased that I can share an additional project with you that you can do with the products that you get in your kit. Please give me a thumbs up and subscribe if you enjoyed this, and share it with all of your crafty friends. Thank you so much for watching. Until next time, happy crafting.